Hello and welcome to a special edition version of Bear Talk. This is our 2020 virtual job shadowing. My name is Mariana, your host and social networking analyst at Bexar County. Since 2016, Bexar County has participated in Job Shadow Days to help provide high school students with a snapshot of what professional and real-world opportunities await them. This is a great way for young adults to open their eyes to career opportunities in local government and public administration. Today, we have a special episode prepared for you as we have invited a few guests to talk about a subject that is very important to our community, how Bexar County has responded to COVID-19. I would like to introduce our panel of speakers. We have Thomas Guevara, Chief of Staff, Office of the County Manager, Monica Ramos, Public Information Officer, Office of the County Manager, Larry L. Robertson, Civil Division Chief, Bexar County District Attorney's Office. So I want to thank all of you for being here today and taking the time to answer some questions I am sure our Bexar County community is interested in knowing about. We will get started with a question for Thomas. Thomas, thank you so much for being here, like I said.
Thank you, Mariana.
And the first question that I have for you is, how did you have to pivot in February, March of 2020 to begin responding to the pandemic?
Well, fortunately, since many of the reporting departments, including emergency management, public information, and government relations, coordinate through my position as chief of staff, it made pivoting a lot easier. But, typically emergency responses that I face in my position have historically been external facing, and when it did involve county operations, it was really like an ice day where county operations were only impacted for a day or two. And those county offices and departments they were accustomed to managing that. And so at this point, we didn't know if we were planning for a 7-day event, a 7-week event, or if we were planning for 7 months of disruption. Lo and behold, here we are about a year later since the pandemic started. But luckily, because a lot of those departments already coordinated through me, it made my job a lot easier to pivot to the response.
Thank you, Thomas. And another question that I have for you is, what has been the biggest challenge or challenges during the COVID-19 pandemic? What county resources had to shift in order to help our community?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges during COVID, during this entire process, has been consistent and up-to-date information. I think guidance to safely navigate the virus seemed to change frequently, especially early on during the pandemic. But I think one of the best decisions Commissioners Court made was to agree to a memorandum of understanding with Dr. Ruth Berggren with the UT Health Science Center. Dr. Berggren was instrumental in helping us develop our safety plans, whether it was related to HR or how to operate here in the facility itself. And so I think that helped instill confidence for the employees that were still having to report here at the office, that we were trying to keep everything as safe as possible. As for the resources that shifted to the community, it was great to see so many offices and departments, especially those that were working remotely or had employees that needed some additional work when we shifted virtually at the onset. It was great to see them go out there and help emergency management, pass out personal protective equipment to small businesses. So we had a lot of volunteers that were able to keep those businesses strong during the pandemic, keep those businesses safe. And that was one of those things that when we started shifting some of the workforce to help in that endeavor to help those businesses that needed it, for us, I think that was really helpful, especially at the beginning of this.
Thank you, Thomas. It sounds like it was a big team effort to make all of this happen.
It sure was.
So now I want to go ahead and move on with Monica. Monica is, like I mentioned, the Public Information Officer at Bexar County. And Monica, I have a question for you as well. Most of our Bexar County strong COVID assistance programs are to assist individuals in incorporated Bexar County and the suburban cities. What were the biggest challenges in raising awareness and marketing in this area?
One of the biggest challenges really was geography itself. A lot of those areas are outlying areas. Some of those areas don't have internet access, or, for that matter, they don't have broadcast services, which you would get your public access channels on. So we had to go target those areas. And what we did was we wound up doing mailing to them directly. And in some cases, we went door to door and distributed door hangers. We plugged into a lot of the smaller radio stations that we knew folks out there in those outlying areas would listen to. So in terms of marketing, it was a different way to approach that, so that we could reach those smaller pockets of area where we know that traditionally they're not going to be surfing the internet, they're not going to be tuning in to the most popular station in town. So we were able to target them that way. And then definitely working with suburban cities to get information out to their residents as well. We worked a lot with their mayors and their city administrators, and in some of those areas that they had libraries to go ahead and pass out that information. Their police departments as well also assisted with that. So everybody kind of coming together and targeting those populations enabled us to really tackle that and get the word out to everyone so that they could apply for those assistance programs or anything else that they might need, whether it was testing, rental assistance, or utility assistance.
Thank you, Monica, for your response. Now I want to move on and ask a question to Larry. Larry, as I mentioned, is the Civil Division Chief for the Bexar County District Attorney's Office. And Larry, I wanted to ask you, your division was pivotal in providing guidance to the county. Can you describe some of the activities the Civil Division undertook?
Well, during the pandemic, and I will say for this, I was completely unprepared. I came in under the new administration of DA Joe Gonzalez, and we did not anticipate a pandemic. But, my division really worked specifically on advice and related to some of the issues that arose. I mean, the law was not prepared for a pandemic, and we had complicated federal laws. We had 32 orders by the state governor. We had 19 orders just by Judge Wolf. We had numerous orders from the city, and we had to identify all of those issues and implement programs, procedures, policies that were in accordance with those. As many of you know, there were conflicting interpretations, there were litigation. In the midst of that, we had elections and one of the most significant elections of our time. And not only that, we had complex constitutional issues that arose because we are a government entity, and the Constitution still exists even under the worst circumstances. And I personally worked with Thomas, and I worked very closely together on, for instance, creating an entrance policy to the Bexar County Courthouse and the facilities that tried to balance those personal rights and keeping in mind that the Constitution still exists. And we took a lot of time to do that. And so did a lot of people. Some of the people in my division, who I have to say have been incredible, all of the people in my division, I just want to note for the record, they worked so diligently to ensure that all of the work needed to be done. We had we had the many agreements dealing with service delivery and food delivery, food and resources and rental services. And all of those things had to be done, and they worked tirelessly to make sure that they were done. And so just want to thank them personally for all that hard work. But those are just some of the issues. Still ongoing.
Thank you, Larry.
Sure.
Thank you. And I feel like I keep hearing the word partnership and teamwork in every scenario that we've talked about today. And I have a few more questions that I want to open up to the panel. Whoever feels like they want to go ahead and answer, please feel free to take the question. So the first question that I have is, what is the biggest lesson or lessons that we have learned from 2020 to 2021?
I'll answer this one, Mariana. I think the biggest lesson I've learned, I'm going to answer this in two ways. First, from a personal perspective, the biggest lesson I learned was not to take a day for granted. And I think as we balance both professional and personal life, and as we lost so many of our friends and family during this terrible pandemic, I think it really brought to the forefront that you have to have that balance to be a productive employee. And so that's one thing that I've learned, and I've tried to keep up even to this day as we're here a year later. But from a professional standpoint, I think through both education and through training, I think the biggest thing that, and I think my fellow panelists can agree, is to remain flexible. So if you're starting off your career and you're going into a particular job, I think if anything that this pandemic has taught us is that we have to be flexible and we have to be prepared to shift in any way that our job might direct us. Because one minute you're here in a facility and the next minute you're working remotely, or one minute you're tasked to do X and then to respond accordingly to keep services going, we're asking you to do Y. And so I think just remaining flexible has probably been one of the biggest lessons I've learned from between 2020 and 2021, and one that I will continue to carry throughout my career.
Thank you so much. So now I am going to ask the final question. What are you most proud of in terms of how the county responded to the pandemic? Can anybody answer that?
I'd like to just take a second to really, and really the thing I'm most proud of is the leadership in this county and the cooperation that all of the different departments and individuals displayed during this. Bexar County became one of the leading counties across the state. No question about it. People were calling my office. I'm sure they were calling Thomas's office in a way that has never happened in the 15 years that I've been here before, because we took action quickly, decisively, and we didn't wait. We worked hard to get there. We worked hard to get there fast, and it was incredible. I don't think that there's another county in Texas that is as successful as Bexar County was through this. And I'm proud to be a part of it, and my people as well.
Thank you, Larry.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else want to weigh in?
I would like to echo, I'm proud of the incredible teamwork that was displayed. From the onset, again, I said earlier, we didn't know if this was a 7-day event, a 7-week event, or a 7-month event. And quite honestly, you saw departments that are usually in the background that were up front and had to respond quick, like the IT department. We called on them and asked, how many people can you get working remotely now? And they did an incredible job to get people the technology they needed, the equipment that they needed, so that we could respond accordingly. Same thing with facilities to protect those employees that were here on site. And then every other department that played a role, and every department has played a role in this pandemic response here at the county. And I've heard from leadership also that were just mesmerized by their own employees, the initiatives that employees were taking to help, keep county government and county services going. And I've heard from many elected officials that some of the employees that they had that maybe they didn't think, would have stepped up during a time like this were actually, giving them advice and helping lead the way. So I think that I'm very proud to hear those kind of stories, what our staff throughout the county was able to accomplish during this time.
Great. Thank you, Thomas. And I want to thank all of our speakers for taking the time to answer these questions and for the hard work you put into making our Bexar County strong COVID-19 response stronger. If you are a resident interested in learning more about any COVID-19 updates within Bexar County, please call 210-335-0300 or visit bexar.org/COVID-19. That is all that we have for today. Thank you for tuning in into the special edition of Bexar Talk. We will see you next time. Thank you.